Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully all of you are doing well out there. I'm, of course, your host, Blitz, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the WZ-111-5A, the Tier 10 Chinese Collector Heavy. That is a very rare tank to find out there on the battlefield. Now, the 5A, as many of you will know that have been subscribed to the channel for a long time, is my favorite Tier 10 in Blitz. It's got a lot of values that I love. The mobility makes it very flexible on a lot of terrain. It's got good gun depression, again, adding to the flexibility, and a big alpha gun, a 130mm gun, able to deal 460 average damage. And when you add all of these things together, plus the good turret armor, it makes it an extremely strong tank if you're playing it correctly. However, it has a lot of downsides, like the weak frontal armor, the lower plate, the sides, and as well the rear, make it really easy to penetrate. In fact, a vehicle like the WZ-113 would flat out beat a 5A in almost any single engagement if it was in a 1v1, because of course the 113 just has raw DPM over it. In fact, over 600 more damage per minute. So my argument in today's video isn't that the 5A is the best tier 10 heavy tank. In fact, by far is it. The IS-4 in my opinion is better. The WZ-113 can be played better. The E100 can have better scenarios, but the argument is that the 5A is a very strong tank, and if you know how to play it, you can do very well in it. Now, the reason I'm going to be saying this is because of Happy Blitz's channel. Now, he is a smaller YouTuber, just about 3,000 subscribers, which I give him a lot of credit. He's grown very quickly. However, in today's video, he even DM'd me about it, and I don't want any hate on his channel whatsoever. We are just trading opinions back and forth right now, and pretty much what he said is this was his opinionated video on, I had made a video, of course, on the 5A a couple days ago saying that it was going to be the next auction tank in the Blitz fair, and I had made some arguments why it's a really good tank and as well why it has some issues going for it, like the hull armor. It does have very weak sides, the gun can be inaccurate sometimes, but I also said that it's a very strong tank if you know how to play it. And of course, for me personally, that's definitely true when my stats are sitting at over 71% and 3,100 average damage, but stats don't really matter for every single player, of course. You can be a really good player just not understanding how to play this tank, especially a good example would be like the Kronwagen. It's a really good tank. However, a lot of people can struggle in it because it's got that really poor DPM. It can be hard to do well if you don't maximize it. And that's the same type of playstyle for a 5A. So the reason I'm making today's video, and I wasn't going to until I read one comment he messaged to one of his subscribers where he said that it was an absolute trash tank. Now, the issue I had is that, yeah, you can say that it's not necessarily the best, and I'll agree with that. However, if you say that my 5A, my favorite tier 10 in the game, is an absolute trash tank, oh, you know you are going to get the steam from me. So again, no hate towards Happy in general. I don't want any problems towards him. In fact, if you see his channel, make sure to subscribe to it because he does post really good content. The only thing I told him is that I would suggest to not call out YouTubers or other people on their opinions in Blitz, especially like the Martin Dogger video, because it not only gives other YouTubers a bad name, but it makes the Blitz community not like each other as much as we should. So that's one thing I will say. However, this is just my opinions on the 5A, arguing his ideas and conceptions about the tank being an absolute dumpster fire. So of course, if you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more like it, please consider smashing the subscribe button down below. Now, the first argument I had was that I said, as you can see here, he quoted, it having a good gun, and then he proceeded to pull up other tanks to show that the gun isn't good at all. Now, the reason I said good is because I know that it's not an excellent gun. As I brought up before, the WZ-113 would easily smack a 5A to pieces. It's got more DPM, and that's a good example for the Chieftain Mark 6 and the T110E5 and the T95E6. However, the issue is that he's comparing tanks that aren't comparable to the WZ-111-5A. Obviously, the Chieftain Mark 6 is going to have a way more accurate gun. It's a Chieftain Mark 6. It's got over 3,000 DPM. If I were to pull out an IS-4 and compare it to all these vehicles listed here, it would be way worse than the Chieftain Mark 6, the E5, the E6, and probably even the VK90, to be honest. An E100, a Kronwagen would have way worse values. So the argument that the dispersion isn't the best is a little off because you're comparing the wrong tanks. The way I compare it here is, as you can see, compared to other 130, 122mm guns, it's quite good. The VK90 has a 130mm gun, and it's the only one that has a clear advantage on the penetration and as well the aiming time, as you can see. It's got just a slight 1% advantage on DPM over the 5A, so DPM is not going to make a difference. He argued that the tank is very bad damage per minute. Well, it doesn't look that bad, judging that these tanks here all have very similar. In fact, it's more than the IS-7 and the Mouse. And the IS-4, of course, one of the best tier 10s in Blitz currently is only sitting at 1% more DPM. So DPM isn't an argument, and a perfect example for that would be the Kronwagen. The Kron is sitting at 1900 damage per minute, which of course is the worst at tier 10. And even though this tank has the worst DPM, you'll notice it's got the highest win rate here over pretty much most of these vehicles, which is very, very impressive. It's only beaten slightly by the VK90 and of course the IS4. But to be fair, that's really impressive judging that this is a tech tree vehicle. So the Kronwagen is a perfect example showing that DPM isn't key in Blitz. The thing that makes the 5A strong is, first of all, it's got very good standard penetration, and with that 460 alpha, when you combine that with the excellent mobility this vehicle has, that smokes the other tanks in the power to weight ratio. And you may think that the i7 is quicker until you realize, oh wait, it's got way worse effective horsepower to ton on any terrain, and as well its terrain resistances in general are way worse. So the 5A smokes mobility on all of these vehicles, which makes it very flexible to get shells out and reposition quick enough to help out your team. Not to mention, the accuracy on the 5A isn't too bad. It's got very good aiming time compared to all the other 130mm, apart from the VK90, which is about 10% better. Now that is a very noticeable difference, and as well the VK90 has got a big difference on dispersion at 0.335. However, the big thing that I love about the 5A and why I call the gun so good is that it's able to drive very quickly, 50 kilometers per hour, but when you have great on-movement dispersion values, way better as you can see than the VK90, the Mouse, the i7, and the IS4, way better, about 20% better. What that means is that you're able to drive on the move without your gun blooming as much, which means you're aiming less, you're snapping more shells easier, you don't have to sit there and wait for your gun to aim in, which therefore means that the aiming time of the VK90 is actually just about the same as the 5As because, of course, the on-movement dispersion. When you move on to gun depression, well, you could argue that the VK90 has 10 degrees. Unless you realize that it only has 4 degrees over the front. The Mouse, of course, has 8 degrees, but it doesn't have any hull-down capabilities. The IS-7 and the IS-4 have very good hull-down capabilities. However, they're only sitting at 6 degrees. So the 5A has actually got very strong gun depression when you do compare it to the latter value. Mobility, of course, is very, very solid. Now, I did say in my video, and I quote this, that the tank has absolutely no armor. And it's a reason that a lot of people are dissuaded from getting the tank, is that it has no armor. And easily, an IS-7 will be punching right through the tank. It's something that's a big issue. But you'll notice that an IS-7 has got literally worse stats in every single aspect on the gun, and I don't see people calling the IS-7 a total trash vehicle. In fact, it's got decent win rate as it is, but the 5A is actually performing better. Now, the 5A, of course, isn't performing the best for tier 10 heavies, but it is a pretty solid performer as it is. Now, the second argument that he did make was that not hull down, but the 5A, I said that it has the best turret in Blitz. And I do argue that very, very heavily. The 5A has got an extremely strong turret. His argument was that while the tank is got a very strong turret, and while that's true, it's got big cupolas, which you can see here. They're not super thick, only about 198, and the other one's sitting at 217 millimeters thick. That is, I will agree, not very strong, and you can easily hit them if you know what you're doing. Now, the roof of the cupola can be very troll, and when you're actually looking at this tank with a real model, it's really, really tricky to hit it. But the thing that I argued, and that he didn't realize, because I don't know if he watched the whole video, but later in the video, at about 6 minutes and 30 seconds, you can hear me saying, is very weak unless you're hull down. And this is the part that dissuades a lot of people from doing well in the vehicle, is that the turret on this tank, as I said, can bounce a Ho-Ri shell. Now, it does have cupolas, but actually, the roof of the cupolas are extremely troll. In fact, a lot of people know the terrors of trying to penetrate a 5A's cupola. But pretty much, the thing about this tank is that you're able to confidently sit hull down, and when you're using your 7 degrees of gun depression, of course, you can't shoot the cupolas on this vehicle, as you saw. So that was my whole argument there, and Happy used an earlier argument on the tank. He only used when I said the turret armor was very strong at the beginning, right here at about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I still rate this turret as stronger, because this is one of the only 2 turrets in the game that can actually survive a Ho-Ri using premium AP. So while I did say that at the beginning, I rebutted my argument all the way towards the end of the video, in the second game, that, yeah, the 5A can't be penned by a Ho-Ri with premium shells even, but it's only if you're hull down, and as you can see, when you are hull down, yeah, good luck hitting that little spot on the edge of the tank. Hull down, the cupolas are extremely strong, and that gives you the ability to confidently sit in front of enemy opponents, as I said in the video, that even a tank like a Ho-Ri cannot penetrate the tank. So hull down, this is still, in my opinion, the strongest tank in the game, apart from the AMX M454, and, well, yeah, the AMX M454 is ridiculously strong, but you can see, even with heat, you cannot penetrate the 5A's hull or turret armor. It's ridiculous. 600 millimeters thick, stick. Of course, you could say you could penetrate the turret, but it's spaced armor, so you can't get through spaced armor, of course, with heat shells, which makes this tank extremely strong hull down. In fact, the strongest in tier 10. Now, not only was that his argument, but the final argument he had said was that this tank, and I'll play it here.
So I think this is where Droodles makes his third mistake. Obviously, in this clip, he says use the mobility on the WZ-111 Mod 5 to be able to, you know, get to the enemy spawn or try to flank the enemy at the start of the game, as he is showing. But I think he's just lucky here, because if you look at the minimap...
Now, wait a second. His whole argument for the final one is that because I was using my mobility, I got lucky that I managed to catch somebody out in the open. Well, the whole reason that the 5A is so strong is because you can use that mobility to your advantage. You'll see a lot of games when I play the tank, I will drive it really quickly to try and catch out enemy tanks. The biggest counter to that argument there is just read the enemy lineup. If you notice, okay, I've pushed halfway through Yukon and I haven't spotted anybody over on the heavy side yet. Well, obviously they're not at heavy side, and that's what I knew when I was playing that game. So I pushed forwards, I spotted the Jagdpanzer, and I knew that the VK was already spotted, which means that your team obviously was not where I was at, and I just shot them in the rear. So that's obviously common sense and deducting skills that you could pull out there to use the mobility. I would definitely suggest to use the mobility in the 5A to its advantage. There's a reason why it has it. It's not a heavy tank that's meant to fight other super heavies. You can fight a mouse, and you can do very well hull down, but you want to fight them at a distance. You don't want to just rush into the battlefield and instantly die. So you want to use that mobility. Sometimes, like on Castilla, I'm not going to push it up the main hill because I'm not a really full-blown heavy. I'm going to go over to the medium side and contest the mediums with that great mobility. So these were my counter-arguments on the WZ-111 5A. This is obviously an opinionated video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And again, no hate towards Happy on Blitz. Please go check out his channel in the description down below if you do want to see the video. And as well, make sure to subscribe to his channel because I think he does have a good spirit in Blitz, but I think he just worded that one video wrong. You don't mess with the mighty WZ-111 5A. But hopefully you enjoyed today's video. As always, if you did, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. Other than that, hopefully all of you are doing well out there. Stay happy, stay healthy, to be seeing you in the next one.